Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm your producer and co-host, and joined as always by Francois Jeffrey. Francois, how are you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm good. We'll see how well I make it through this episode because you just listened to me trip over every single word I said backstage. So we'll see what happens.
we have a lot of going on, right?
There's so much.
We have Noviland Shop that just came out, and we're going to Miami.
We're going to Miami
in a few days. Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean that's another thing to plan for. I wonder. I should probably text my buddy. I wonder what the weather's like in November. I'm guessing it's still nice.
I checked it the other day when we decided that we were going, and it looked like it was going to be lovely. My little
Perfect,
needing
like
a heat
70s?
lamp lizard self was going to be very happy. Yeah, I want to say the highs, like one day got up to 80, but everything was hanging around like 75, 77. And then in the evenings, it didn't get super cold.
Yeah.
That's what I remember seeing, but things
It's going to be
could
fun.
have changed. I'm very excited. I'm also worried about everything. And so I'm just worried about getting all the things like together and ready.
Yesterday.
Yes. And I was trying to express to Jack, and he was like, you're not going to be calm and feel like you're ready for this trip until it's over. I was like, gosh, you understand me. Like, you get me.
See, I am very much the opposite. First of all, because there's going to be amazing people there that we already know and we've talked to.
It's going to be friends.
And it's good. Yes. So we have great friends going. We get to listen to awesome speakers. We get to learn a little bit more about Carlos Alvarez at his Wizards of E-com hangout on Monday, November 1st. And then we have that awesome dinner. I think that's sponsored by the Ecom Cooperative and Takeometrics. So yeah, a bunch of people that we already know. I mean, it's really just going to hang out with friends. And then Tuesday.
But it's like, did you pack everything? Do you have your business cards? Like, do we have all of our microphones?
What's the worst?
All of
there's a solution to everything. It's going to be okay. There's nothing that we can't solve when we're there. It's Miami.
We'll see.
It's not the middle of nowhere.
But I've never been to Miami. I don't know how readily available things are in Miami.
Everything is more, I would say, more available than even here from where the office is. So everything's closer, I would say. And then Tuesday, November 2nd, if you're listening to this after the fact, we'll update you after November 2nd also. But for anyone that's listening to the replay live or before Tuesday, November 2nd, we also are going to the Amazon Powwow, which is a fun packed day sponsored by Bizfluence. And there's a bunch of speakers. I don't know. Tim Jordan, Emma Shermer-Tamir, Amy Weiss, Lauren Hirschkorn. I mean, I hope I got his last name right.
Yes, Lauren Hirschkorn.
So, I mean, there's so many speakers, and then there's the VIP party where it's like hookah and cigar rolling and wine tasting, and it's cheap. It's super cheap, and it's even cheaper with the promo code.
Exactly. There you go. We've got a promo code for our Link Up listeners and fans of the show. It is Francois50. So just Francois's name, 50 for 50% off. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put on your name tag so anybody watching knows for sure how to spell your name. So
and that
Francois
is spelled Francois.
Yes.
50. 50 the numbers 50. And it's like $150 or something like that to go to an all-day event to listen to amazing speakers. And then it's a little bit more than that to actually attend the VIP party. It's crazy. It's practically, if you're an Amazon seller and you have all this content for $150, I mean, that's cheaper than a night out on a weekend for a lot of people. I mean, it's cheap.
How much you spend on your nights out? It's that bottle service that'll get you.
It's that bottle service. One bottle will get you. Yes. So I mean, go attend. It's a great conference, great event. We're going to be able to meet all of our friends again. We get to meet some of our audience, hopefully some of our listeners.
Yeah, come meet your favorite podcast hosts. We're nice people. We're friendly people.
We are nice. And Norm, we get to meet Norm. We actually get to see how long his beard is. Yeah,
I know. I hear he's tall. Or I think I saw a photo and I was like, holy crap, I think Norm is like
Are you
six
comparing it
foot
to him
five.
and Tim Jordan? Because I think Tim Jordan is like
No, I
he's
think
probably like 5'6", 5'7", right?
no, I
I
think
don't know
Tim
from the
Jordan's like an average
pictures.
sized guy. We're gonna find out really
That's an
soon.
average size.
5'7"?
Yeah, that's about the male height average in the US, right? No,
I
am
thought
I
it was like
wrong?
5'9".
I could be completely
That's
wrong.
taller
I
than
don't know.
that.
I
We're
lie on my license
so
anyways.
do you really?
Yeah, I give myself an extra half inch. I'm 6 foot on my license.
Whatever you wanna do, man. I'm a hard 5'4", and I don't even try for any more because it's an
Yeah.
obvious lie. But anyway, we are
But
so off
also,
topic.
yes, and they're gonna be talking about a lot of marketing, which we're gonna be talking about
Yes.
today, which is
Yes.
more important.
So let's go ahead and bring our guest on today. We have Lauren Schwartz. She is the founder and creative director of the Loft 325 with one of the most aesthetically pleasing backgrounds we've seen on the show
Yes.
yet.
Which is
So
an
Lauren, thank
authentic
you.
background,
It is
not
real.
a fake,
It's not a
Zoom
Zoom
background.
background. Like sometimes when people do those and they move their head too quickly, you can see like the shadow that's created because it's trying to generate. And I was
Yeah.
like looking when you got on first. I was like, is this real? It looks
Just a really
so
high
pretty.
quality background.
Thanks.
Where she's got the green screen, like what David Dayon does. We're like, where did you get this like sign? He's like, it's not a sign, it's a green screen. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this
his
is
looks pretty
cool.
good too.
We need
Yeah.
this. But Lauren, thank you for being here. Are you calling in from Orange County?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's
You're on the West
what is
Coast.
the weather there? Because we always have to ask.
Yeah, yesterday it was like mid 70s and now it's supposed to be like 90. So it's gonna be hot today.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
sounds
90
perfect.
at the end of October. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
couldn't be me. I need my seasons.
Nope. Oh,
Yeah.
I need the seasons too. It's just cold here right now. I cut the
know,
heat
it's
on in the
lovely.
office finally today. And
Where are
I'm
you guys at?
we're in Atlanta. So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
like cold comparatively to the rest of the world. I just am a lizard person who needs a heat lamp.
Yeah.
And so I am always cold. Like I have a blanket on right now, you guys. Like I stay cold all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But Lauren, thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into your background. Can you tell us a little bit about the Loft 325 and what you do and kind of how you got into the space?
Yeah, so I own the Loft 325, and we are a digital ad creative service. So we basically focus on everything for ad creatives for TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube. We design and execute the strategies and all the ads for our clients. I actually have been in the digital side for like over 15 years. I've done everything for e-commerce from like landing pages to email design. And I started working at an agency and just kind of fell in love with this side of it. Really focusing on like the strategy and how you actually get people to click onto your website. So once I kind of fell in love with that, I decided to leave the agency. Just agency life just unfortunately wasn't for me, and decided to just basically focus everything on ad creatives, and just really make that my main focus for my clients. So been doing that and absolutely love it.
And just a little disclaimer for anybody listening, the episode is titled TikTok Marketing Strategies, but we're probably going to hit all of the platforms. So just be aware. So like when you talk about like ad strategies and like that, how do the ad strategies differ between the different platforms? Like I'm assuming that you can't run the same ad on TikTok that you do on Instagram, that you do on Facebook, that you do on, I don't know, Pinterest, depending on your product. Like that probably doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It definitely does take a lot of different strategies. Obviously for, Facebook and Instagram, I mean, really, actually, all of them could technically have mostly user generated content. But obviously TikTok has a way different form of user generated content as opposed to like a Pinterest or a YouTube or even a Facebook, and Instagram. So definitely like the strategy for all of them is, Facebook is definitely more of like, I would say the older kind of age range. So more statics kind of work on Facebook. But then with Instagram, it's obviously more user generated content, things that look super native to the feed. And then obviously for TikTok as well, TikTok is all organic. Like everything needs to look exactly like it was in the feed and nothing was really changed, just looking like these creators had created this on their own and just kind of are sharing this product with you. So there's definitely a lot of different strategies that we have to kind of stay on top of. So for me, it's mostly just staying top of, all the trends, everything that's kind of working within the industry, doing a ton of research on other brands, and really just making sure that we're executing efficiently so that obviously our clients will hit the targets that they need to. So it is a lot of research for sure.
And to rewind really quick, hold on, I want to hit something because this came up in conversation the other day. Can you give us your definition of UGC? Like we know that it stands for user gen. That was your question. Well, it's my question, Francois. Can you give us your definition of it? Because we know it's user generated content, but we kind of got in a lively discussion about like what that actually is and how you obtain it and like the definition of a user. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I tend to describe user generated content as anything that honestly looks organic to the feed. So unboxings look organic to the feed. Anyone showing the product and talking about the product is very native. Anytime someone gives any sort of review is, user generated content. Pretty much like you can have high-end user generated content where it looks like it's been produced in a studio, but yet you're still kind of showing what you want the product to, like you're showing the audience what you're wanting to obviously show them. But then there's also that sort of native feel where it looks like you're talking to the camera. So on your iPhone or anything that can be produced that way. I definitely think it's one of those things that it's such a broad scope of what user generated content can be. But I usually define it as something that just looks really native to the feed. Anyone that can honestly just sit there and talk on their camera and just tell someone about a product and making it seem very authentic and organic is usually what I kind of resonate towards as far as user generated content.
Okay, so it can be done from the perspective, sorry, Francois, of like either I don't know how to describe this. Like either I have my pumpkin here. Either I have my phone and I'm like recording. I'm tired of cups. I'm like talking about like, oh, I unboxed the pumpkin. It's so soft. It's so fluffy. Or front facing. Here's me, my pumpkin block. So it can be from either direction.
Yes, exactly.
So then what about like the old commercial?
Oh, shut my mouth. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. Because I have to know, because it's like, okay, obviously this is somebody who has either purchased an item or has been sent an item and they're giving their review of it, either an unboxing or talking about features or whatever. Right. But what about those old, and I say old, I'm thinking back to like early 2000s, commercials where like you'd see somebody taking a product on the street and with like a one camera, one person and a microphone and just being like, hey, will you try this out really quick? And you record their reactions. Is that user generated content too?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Obviously. Yeah, definitely reaction videos. Again, like there's so many forms of user generated content. But I always just try to think of it as a native user generated content or a high produced user generated content. So again, like the high production, I would call it, is, again, having it in studio or even doing those kind of like reaction videos on the street. Technically that could be a high produced kind of, video shoot. But just, I think if you're in your house and you're recording yourself with your iPhone talking about a product that has been sent to you, has more, I think, just authenticity to people and knowing that like it seems more genuine than if you have like this kind of camera crew that's following you around shooting this content. I think like that doesn't necessarily seem like as genuine. But I will say that, yes, reaction videos are definitely one that are a great form of user generated content as well.
Okay. And
Yeah.
anything that looks native works best, right? Sorry, just to cap it
Yes.
off. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I was
Francois,
thinking more
go.
so, like, for example, those expensive, like the skateboards with the one wheels, right? Let's just say a brand is
Oh,
rolling
those
something
things.
like that out, and it's really expensive to send those out to, a few different influencers or someone that wants to try it out, for example. And it might be, at the beginning at least, a little bit more complex to get their videos back, because maybe
Right.
they're just not comfortable with getting videos. So for example, if they were to go out to a busy section where there's a lot of people that are their ideal audience, let's say in their 20s, right?
Hmm.
And they had them like try out the unicycle, or I don't know how you would even call it,
I don't know what those are called.
skateboard, uniboard, whatever.
Something like that.
That could be considered user generated content, and you would just have to get their consent to be able to use that for
Yes.
marketing purposes. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, obviously when you are shooting user generated or blah, 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 when you are shooting user generated content, if you are working with, let's say, an influencer or creator, obviously you have to get their permission. But if, or I'm sorry, they're already giving you the permission because
Mhm.
you basically sent them the product and you can use it. But the types where it is like those reaction kind of videos, you always have to make sure that you get their approval. Or if clients or customers send you their authentic like reviews too, just randomly shoot this video, and you can just ask them like, hey, is it okay if we use this for an ad? Like that's something, again, like customers are excited to share how they feel about the product, and they want obviously to share it. I think more people get excited when you're like, yeah, let's use this great reaction video in an ad, and they get all excited because they're going to be featured in an ad. So
Mhm.
yeah, it definitely is. Like, again, there's so many forms of user generated content, but I always tend to ask for the more authentic, organic looking ones, because I think those actually just convert better, because it looks like someone's actually talking to you in the feed as opposed to like selling you a product.
Mhm.
Right. Right. And I mean, I think another uh, pretty important topic, and it's primarily for those business owners that might not be the most marketing savvy, and they typically will hire out for that, because they just know that might not be their strongest suit. It might be
Right.
PPC's their strongest suit, or
Mhm.
product selection or product development might be a stronger suit for them. Um, but can we walk through, for example, how they would think about a marketing plan versus utilizing different strategies versus like campaigns, and even the tactics that they would put within those campaigns? Just like a general breakdown of those. Obviously, this is a very hyper specific strategy. You could go guerrilla
It's like,
marketing.
this
It
is a
could be
loaded
whatever the case.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so to break it down, if you're a new business owner and you're essentially wanting to get your product out there, what are the different strategies that you're looking for? Is that the question that you're asking? Just so I can be clear.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like,
Okay.
what are the different strategies, and then how do you effectively run them, and I guess
Okay.
track and manage them?
Yeah. So I would say, if you are a new business owner and you have this product, I think the first and foremost is, what are the features and benefits of your product? So I think a lot of times, businesses, they have such a hard time kind of stepping away from their product and really explaining what it is that, what actually is the features and benefits, because they are two completely different things. If you are selling a product, obviously the features are, how does it work? How does it function? That sort of thing. Whereas the benefits are, how does this actually benefit my life? And how is it going to potentially change my life? So I think for, a strategy for that is really kind of honing in on what those specific things are, and how am I going to explain those things, in such a short way that anyone can digest them. So I always tell clients, like, when you're kind of coming up with these sorts of things, like, you need to be able to explain it to me like I'm a child. And sometimes they get a little bit, offended by that comment, but at the same time, like, I only have less than 3 seconds to grab your attention. And if I don't have the shortest snippets in order to kind of get that attention and to get that message across, then I'm going to lose you. So really, it's breaking down those features and benefits, and then figuring out how I can explain this in such an easy format. And then once you kind of do it that way, then it's, figuring out, okay, who am I trying to sell to? Like, who is my target demographic? Is it, 20 to 30? Is it, 18 to 25? Is it 40 to 60? Like, those are the things that you have to also kind of start to figure out, and figuring out who exactly is, figuring out who your demographic is obviously super important. But I think with that is where you can potentially get your ad creatives to really kind of focus in on that subject. So, or those audiences. So I think the first thing, again, would be to figure out what your features and benefits are, and then figure out how to describe those in a very short, easy format. And then taking those ideas and starting to generate them into ad creatives. And again, it could be user generated content, it could be static images, it could be short form videos. And these are all things that can be attained, again, through your iPhone, through, having customers send you their information back. And then once you kind of get those things, you can start to figure out, how am I going to potentially get like all of this into one ad? So again, it's kind of like it's complex in that you have to figure out all of the beginning parts of it before you can actually even get to the final ad, if that makes sense. There's a lot that like potentially goes into it, but I think the first and foremost is making sure that you're breaking things down in a super digestible format.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that something that you constantly would audit? And let's say, because you're making all these assumptions, let's say you're rolling out that
Right.
unicycle. You think that 18 to 25s would be most suited for it, but you find out that it's actually 30 to, 25 to 35 or more suited for it.
Right.
Is that something that you will test out the methods for the 18 to 25s at the beginning and then just see what bites? Or should you be testing out different demographics at the same time?
Yeah. So usually what I kind of do is I will kind of do like a general audience. So, or like a broad audience. So basically taking all the information that I have and making it super generalized so that there's no real like age demographic that you're trying to hit. It's just a super general kind of campaign, and then target it broad. And then as you kind of start to see what's working, then we can take those creatives and make iterations off of them and really start to iterate off of what has worked, but then seeing the audiences that have worked as well, and then hone in on those audiences and start really hitting them with new sets of creative that they could potentially start to purchase on. So at the beginning, it's a lot of creative testing. I'm super, super big on creative testing because I think that's the only way that you're going to even know like who your audiences are, what kind of creatives are working. And then once you kind of figure out that formula, it's really easy to just make iterations. And an iteration can be, changing the first 3 seconds of an ad or changing the copy on the ad. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be this whole new, ad format. It's just really just changing just a couple seconds of a piece of creative and testing it again and seeing if that will work. So I think a lot of times like people think of iterations and it's like, oh, I have to make this entirely new piece of creative, but really it's just taking the formula that you have and making a slight iteration could benefit an entire ad.
And
then,
for like,
oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was gonna say, like, I was just thinking while you were talking, like, for like TikTok ads, and you said anything that looks like native to the platform would be best. Do you recommend or like ever see ads that are done with like the trending sounds or like trending dances and stuff? Is it good to get that hyper specific?
So unfortunately with TikTok, because all of the sounds are copywritten, you actually can't use those specific sounds in your ads.
Oh.
You have to, usually like what I do for that kind of stuff is they have TikTok based websites where you can get free sounds that sound very similar to the ad, like similar to like what is trending. But it's not like obviously the full copywritten piece of music. Because there are unfortunately a lot of companies out there that don't technically know that, and so they use it, and then they'll either have to get it taken down, or like, I mean, we've tried it on a couple, and we've had our ads like taken down because you're like, TikTok is actually very like in their regulations of ad running, they're actually very strict. And so you would think that it would be a pretty easy platform to kind of just throw anything out there, but it's actually very specific on what they tend to like and not like for ads. And so like it's been kind of an evolving ad platform because it is still so new. So there is still a lot of things that are kind of happening within TikTok, but they also, they have a better platform for engagement and just reaching people, because Facebook is so saturated that it is better for companies to kind of move towards the TikTok route, because it is easier to get your brand seen as opposed to like Facebook and Instagram. So, I mean, again, that's something that it's hard because you have to make sure that you're still hitting all of those, the regulations that they have, but there are ways around it for sure. Like, you can definitely take the trends that are trending, but just change them in a way where like you could actually use them for like ad purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have an ad taken down, is that considered does that count towards like your strikes on your account before they, like on like community guidelines and stuff? Do they take you down? Are those
like
separate?
ban it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like they could potentially like, again, like I think like TikTok is still a pretty new platform. So far, like I haven't had any of my clients have their ads rejected or their accounts disabled.
Okay.
Because I feel like they do give you that warning of like, hey, like you can't be doing this, like that, and they send you the like rules and regulations, and then you just have to basically change it. So thankfully, like knock on wood, none of my accounts have had any of those issues. But I'm sure there are those out there that, they tend to do have those issues. So but yeah, they will let you know that you can't use that stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And at the same time, so would you recommend running ads by themselves, or do brands need to have supporting content, like building up, let's say their Instagram posts or their TikTok videos that are not ads?
To run them on TikTok or just in general?
Well, in general, I'm thinking like when I see an ad, and they changed this slightly, I think, but I remember seeing ads before for like table games. For some reason, I was getting served a lot of table game ads. And when I would click on the profile, they had a ton of videos of people actually playing the table games, and I enjoyed that. But some of them now that I click on, it just takes me directly to a profile that doesn't have any. And I don't trust it as much for some reason.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's more of whitelisting. So basically, like a whitelisted campaign is an influencer or creator who is given, like they are given the product, and they potentially like talk about the product and tell you about the product. And then you can whitelist it through their Facebook or Instagram. So it looks like they're running a sponsored post, but basically like us as marketers are using their audience to potentially draw you into like the product. So like we basically like whitelist your audiences so we can potentially grab that information, so we can then potentially send you like retarget ads to these specific audiences that are, we're whitelisting through essentially. So it's, again, like it is hard because a lot of times like creators will get the product and they don't even use the product. So like, again, like that kind of stuff, it is hard because if you are whitelisting and they're not necessarily like a big proponent of, whatever, like the table board games, then obviously it doesn't seem as authentic. So it is hard. So with whitelisting, like it can be difficult because you might only reach like a certain percentage of their audience, but then another times like it works great and you get, so many people clicking to your website and purchasing the product. So I think it's just kind of the way like you kind of position it, and who exactly you're using for your campaigns. Because I think that's another big part of it too, especially with creators, is that make sure you're using creators that one, genuinely would use the product, and two, like, even though they have a large audience, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a super effective whitelisting form of, for an ad, because if it doesn't seem authentic, then most people aren't even going to go through and purchase the product.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that brand needs to have any organic content on their own company page about the product or about the company or brand?
I mean, I would think it would be a great start to actually have like that sort of content. But again, like with whitelisting, you're basically just trying to get their audience. And so sometimes it's more just for audience grabbing and like trying to like reach more people. So sometimes it's not even necessarily like, okay, even if you don't have the product, like it's going to hinder you. It's more just, I just want to collect as much of that information as possible so that I could potentially now take our ads and retarget to this new set of audience, essentially. So like, it's not even sometimes about, making sure that the ad converts. I mean, obviously you want it to convert, but some more times it's just getting the audience information.
Got it. So the goal is to acquire the data. And where is the data, I guess, found? Do they give you access to their account or something? Or does
Yes,
TikTok
so
have
they
like
give
a
you
okay.
they give you page access. So yeah, so they'll give you page
Okay.
access to their Facebook page, which then could be targeted through Facebook and Instagram, so that you can basically grab that audience information, and then we can target to them.
And you just can you create something like a lookalike audience for that?
Yes. Yeah, you can definitely create a lookalike audience, and yeah, really, it's just again, like 50% of the time whitelisting works, 50% of the time it doesn't work. And so I think, again, it kind of just depends on who it is, but really all you're trying to do is just get information and data. That's like the biggest, the best part of whitelisting is just all the data that you can grab from it.
And do they have something similar for TikTok?
I think they do. I actually don't know. That's a great question. I mean, I think I'm sure they do. I don't think it's as robust as Facebook. But a lot of times, like the stuff that we run through TikTok, it's mostly just running as an ad from like the person, not the person's page, but like the brand's like ad account, and not necessarily through like whitelisting. So I actually don't know. That's a great question.
If they don't, they will eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as they move towards ads, definitely, it's a huge money revenue. It's revenue for them.
Yeah.
And so, as they incorporate this strategy, would you say this is something that they should always start with ads? Right? Let's say a product launch, they're just getting started. Should they start with ads first, or should they try to get organic reach first through their socials, through any other means that are not paid ads?
Yes, I'm such a big proponent of organic reach, because one, if you're not talking to an audience, then how are you going to like sell ads to an audience? So I'm, like, I think it's something that like a lot of people, they instantly get their product, they start marketing it, or they start getting it out there, and then they're like, oh, I have to run ads right away. But if you only have like a super small audience of like 100 people on your organic, then like it's really not as beneficial. So I'm always telling my clients, like, it's great to run ads, and obviously that's what I do, and I would love to work with you. But if you don't have any sort of like organic reach, if you don't have an email list, if you don't have like anything that like is other parts of the funnel, then really like we're not driving anyone anywhere. Like you're not really reaching anybody. Like we could set it out to this broad audience, but you're going to spend more money trying to figure out who your audience is, as opposed to already starting with an audience through your email list, through your organic Instagram. Like organic is just such a big thing that I think is so important. And I think a lot of companies just automatically think they want to go just straight to ads, but ads are expensive and CPAs are really high. There's a lot going on Facebook, and really like for small businesses, you're going to just burn money. And I personally would just suggest that you start on the organic side first, build that up. And then once you have a pretty good following, then you can move into paid advertising.
What are some of those ways that they can build that organic audience? Like would like giveaways be a good starting point?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, I
because
always like giveaways, any sort of like, collabs you could do with like other influencers is always great. Any sort of, obviously you don't want to start like with a full discount, because then obviously it just, people start to tend to think that that's like a discount brand. But really, like, just driving people into your funnel, really, like, it's just building up that organic reach. Like, even if you as an owner has this product, have your friends talk about the product, like try to get reviews about the product, post that on your Instagram, like just really start like basically just telling people how great your brand is and how great your product is. And really just kind of starting it that way. I think that's always like a big thing that, again, like people don't utilize the people that they know in their, around them. And I think that that's something that is, I mean, it's free to you. Like you yourself as the owner can talk about it. And if you have friends who use the product, like ask them, hey, would you mind giving me a quick, like, 10-second review on my product? Like, it's, so easy and it's free. So I just think that that's something that you can definitely work with. But yeah, giveaways are always great. Like just to get people excited about your product is always a great way to start.
yeah, because I feel like I've seen them on Facebook and on it like Instagram for sure. Because it seems like everybody
Definitely.
and their brother is opening up a women's athletic apparel brand for some reason. And there's always a giveaway where it's like, all right, it's usually like this post, follow the handle, tag 3 friends, and it's like every, or 3 or more friends, every individual tag is more submissions to the giveaway or whatever. I've definitely
Yeah.
seen that on Facebook and definitely on Instagram. Is there any way to do giveaways on TikTok?
I mean, you could. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, even if it's someone just talking about like a giveaway, through TikTok, like, or, doing it in kind of like a fun, obviously TikTok trend kind of way. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't see why you couldn't. Like, I think one of the biggest things is like there's all those like trends that do pop up where it's like, I don't know, what was it, like the folding taco trend or something like that. Like even if you were like, let's
Oh
say you
yeah.
had like a food-based product or something, and you can be like, show us your best, like whatever you make with that trend or whatever. Like some like stuff
Mhm.
like that. It's like those are things you could do because again, you're using the trends as like, if you pop up on the trending page and people are gonna be like, oh, like what's this product? And it's organic in that way, and that you're trying to figure out like, well, I want to win whatever they're giving me, like people love free stuff. So
Mhm.
like if you win something, like you're totally gonna get people into, your business.
Mhm.
And so when you are talking to your clients, how much do you have to learn, and I guess how much do they have to have built out for post ad? Like you said, for example, if someone comes to your page and you don't capture their email and they don't buy anything, then it's almost a waste of time, right? It's a
Mhm.
waste of money.
Right.
Maybe it's brand exposure. Maybe you could retarget them. That's a great point too. But I guess what do they have to have built out to really be effective for that post ad engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I think for like obviously for post ad engagement, definitely again like your email, like you need to have your email set up. You need to have your flows. You need to have your welcome series, your abandoned cart, all of that stuff. I definitely think you need to have obviously your landing pages built out as well. Again, I think a lot of people just think ads are the way to go, but if
Mhm.
you're the like bones of your brand aren't built, the emails, the landing pages, the website, like again, like your ads just really aren't going to be that effective. Like I can only do so much in an ad for you because if I'm sending them to a page or a website that isn't built out, then the experience for that customer isn't going to be as effective and you're going to lose them instantly. So making sure that everything on the back end is well thought out and everything is and strong, then I
Mhm.
think the post ad of it is going to be much better, because if there's more information to digest, if there's more reviews and more just engagement, I think people are going to tend to be like, okay, well, this is a legit business, and I like it. I like what they're offering. There's, more information on here, and then they're going to want to purchase. So again, like me, myself, like I can only do so much for you if you don't have the bare bones of your business built out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think it's something that is complicated, especially for a solopreneur, someone that might have a very successful brand and be in a great niche, and just rolling out new products. It's a lot to track and manage, though. Are there any tools that you recommend or that you see your clients use to manage, let's say, their ads and their entire funnel?
Yeah, I mean, a paid marketer, like obviously, like there, it definitely is. It is a big undertaking, but again, like I think, as someone who, like, obviously I'm a small business owner, and so I think, at the beginning I was doing everything by myself and making sure that, I was, doing all the marketing, doing all of the copywriting, everything like that. I think as you kind of grow is where you can start to like build upon these things. But Facebook, I mean, it's not a super hard platform. It's pretty easy. Like once you start to kind of get in there and test things. So again, I think, with Facebook specifically and TikTok, it is one of those things, like, to actually run it is not complicated. And again, like you can start building those things and start testing those things on your own. And then as you kind of start to grow is where you can potentially get like a paid media buyer to kind of help you like with larger budgets, or organizing anything else you need to have if you want to hire an email marketer. I mean, I think as you start, you can really start to figure those things out. And unfortunately, as a small business owner, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But I think like those mistakes really help you grow as a business and like really help you figure out like, hone in on what exactly is working for you and your clients, and you and your customers. So I think that a lot of times like having those mistakes that are made are actually super beneficial for you to grow, to be honest. Like that's kind of one of my biggest things.
And if they're like a solopreneur or, a small business owner, like you said, that maybe doesn't have the budget for an ads manager or something like that, when they're making all of the creative and everything on their own, I'm assuming they need to take seasonality into consideration. Like you don't want to be posting videos of using your product at a pool if we're going into November, like
right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. And again, I think like those are, I mean, again, if you know your product and you know that it isn't working there, like, or it's not for that seasonality, then yes, you can do it. But, there are a lot of times too, like where are your, like on the insights, you can definitely see like in Instagram, like where people are actually targeting. So like, let's say you are in California, but your product is actually, let's say, reaching in Australia. We'll throw it out there for that because it's different hemispheres. Like you could potentially, because if you're getting more people purchasing in Australia, let's say, you could potentially like have that kind of content, because again, you have to know what your audience is wanting, and you have to know like where you need to be kind of selling your product, like for the specific audiences that you're trying to target. So, and that's obviously like a very broad case scenario, but like it could happen, like there are a lot of things like where it definitely does happen. So it's just knowing who your audiences are. And again, like Instagram has great insight tools. So, I mean, you could definitely check that all on your phone and through the insights tab.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's something interesting that they've just done. You were talking and it reminded me of it, is they just changed their hashtag algorithm. Have you seen this? Where,
Yes.
yeah. So my understanding of what they've done is that now they're getting closer to like mirroring TikTok, it looks like, where they only want you to use like 3 to 5. And not only does the hashtag have to be relevant to the content within the post, but it also kind of needs to match your entire profile.
Right.
So with that in mind, what would you advise maybe a longer standing e-commerce business or just small business that's been using social media for a long time, doing the old hashtag method? Do they need to go back and kind of change everything so it all better aligns? I mean, if their stuff was kind of all over the place, I mean, do they need to retroactively change that stuff?
I don't think they need to retroactively change it. I definitely think just moving forward you can change it, but
Okay.
I think like just, obviously like in the world we're in of social media and everything, happening, you have to unfortunately adapt pretty fast. So, and
Mhm.
again, it could be tough like, as a small business, like there's so many trends that happen on a daily basis. I feel like that just making sure that you're up to date and just understanding what's happening. Again, like the new hashtag algorithm, yes, they rolled it out, but like it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you as a business. Like I think it's just things like you can test it and see how it works. And then if it doesn't work for you, then like maybe go back to your old, way of doing things, or like test a new strategy. Like I think that's kind of the brilliance of social media, is that there's always something to test and there's always something to learn. And I think as you kind of grow as a brand is basically how you're going to grow in your business, even on social media. Like I mean, I work in the industry and I can't even keep up with all the trends. Like
So
it's
hard.
hard myself, to make sure that like I'm keeping up with everything. So, as a small business owner, like it's hard, and I totally get that, but it's just trying to do what you can to stay
Mhm.
on trend, I think is what is honestly the only thing you can really do. Like you can't be everything all at once. So I think just kind of sticking to your niche and making sure that you're staying relevant within your niche is probably just really the most important.
Mm. It's a good
Now,
little tidbit.
what if they do, and tracking back to an earlier topic of finding your true demographic, right, from 18 to 25, and you find out it's actually 25 to 35.
Mhm.
Would you suggest going back and deleting the content that you created from 18 to 25, or leaving that as is and then just moving forward, targeting more, let's say like
Yeah.
language, even it's slightly different?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Don't delete your history. Like that's kind of how I like to put it. Like where you came from is where your brand started, and then
Mhm.
as you learn you can grow. But again, like I would never want to fully say like, okay, well this is not our demographic, so like erase everything. Like you can't,
Mm.
like it's basically like you can't erase data, and good, like bad data is still good data, because it's learning, and learning
Mhm.
what didn't work is going to only help you move forward. So I think, with that kind of stuff, like what you've learned is what you've learned. And now how do you change the narrative to move forward into that new demographic? And so you have to take a lot of your past learnings in order to move forward into like the new audiences. So I'm always a big proponent of, taking the past data and just building upon it, and really like, testing again, always testing, making sure that, okay, well, we tested this demographic, it's not working. So now how do we change our tone to make it into this older demographic? And like, basically like start testing that. Because again, like, even though it may not be your full demographic of like the 18 to 25, like you probably still are reaching some 18 to 25-year-olds. But now, okay, I'm reaching some of them. They're not my biggest audience, but I'm still talking to them. And so now I need
Mhm.
to move into this higher demographic that is potentially paying more, and actually, wanting to like purchase this product. Then you just still build up upon that demographic. But I would never say delete the old information, because it's still relevant to your brand.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's validated learning through data, Francois. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
what we just read about.
Exactly.
we're reading a fun book, The Lean Startup by is it Gino Wickman? I think it's Gino Wickman.
No, I thought that was traction and rocket
No,
fuel.
it's Eric Ries.
No, Eric Ries. It's Eric Ries.
Yeah. Great book for anyone who hasn't read it. But what goes into a quality ad? Because I've seen some horrible ones, and I know we've touched
Yes.
on several
Same.
aspects of ads, but but I guess like what goes through your mind when you're creating a quality ad for
Mhm.
one of your clients?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing, when creating a quality ad is one, how do I get them to stop in the scroll? Two, I need to show the product within the first, I would say 2 seconds. I used to say three, but I would even say like 1 to 2. And then really making sure that you're really honing in on what those features and benefits are. And if you are doing user generated content, always make sure you're providing some sort of a caption, whether it's someone, with the full captions at the bottom, or even just little like quick tidbits of, kind of what they're saying. So if I have sound off, I can kind of understand what they are saying, without having the sound on. So I would say those are like the biggest things that I focus on when developing an ad. The first and foremost is really just figuring out how I'm going to stop someone in the scroll, which again, like that's always a hard challenge because it could be copy, it could be a quick transition, it could be someone like screaming. I don't know. Like it's one of those things, like I think for each brand, I've really had to figure out how people, like how their audience, kind of stops. And with that, like it has been a lot of testing. Like I've had clients where we've done a month of testing, sometimes almost 2 months of testing until we found that one that like really worked. And then once we kind of found that, then we took that creative and made a ton of iterations on it to kind of see like, was it the copy? Was it, this quick transition? Like what was it about this ad that made this many people so engaged in it? But I would definitely say those are kind of the main things that I think about when working on ad creatives.
And would you suggest creating multiple ads at the same time with different creatives that would maybe hit different audiences to see which one performs the best?
Yeah, so usually when I create a new piece of creative, I'll usually do for video, I'll usually do 3 different variations. So usually the 3 different variations could be the same video for the first 3 seconds and then changing the copy on the 3 videos, testing that, or I'll do different videos the first 3 seconds and then the same copy. So a lot of times it's what is it exactly that's going to get someone to stop? And then I'll take those pieces of creative and throw them in a testing campaign and see which one is getting the better traction. Sometimes you have one that's like a sure winner and you know exactly which one it is. And then sometimes you have no winners and then you literally have to scratch it and try again. Um, but it's, again, I think that's why I love so much about testing. And I always let my clients know, like, we need to test these creatives, because if you don't test, then I'm basically just kind of throwing creatives out there. We're never going to figure out what is winning and what is, and what's working. So
Mm.
that's kind of how I think of testing. And then same with like statics, static images. Static images are easy to test because again, like you could throw 10 images in there and figure out like what image is really going to work. And with those are pretty easy again too, because you always know the clear winners. Like people will gravitate towards one thing more than they will another, but video is always a challenge. Like you have to make sure you're figuring out what is grabbing people in that first 3 seconds. Like that is the biggest thing.
I think I'm gonna start, like, paying attention to what I stop at on ads now, like, because
Yeah.
you get so many, like, who said it? Literally the other day, we were just speaking with them. Uh, um, um, Direct mail marketing. Dennis, the average, like, social media user or, like, American consumer is presented with 4 to 5,000 digital
Yeah.
advertisements a day between
Was it
all
4
of
to
the
5 or
different.
40?
It was something
4,000, right?
stupid high. I think it was
Yeah.
4,000. Something crazy, crazy high that I still can't get my brain around. And like, obviously, you don't remember all of those. There's no way.
Right.
And so I think I'm going to start as I scroll through, go like, okay, I stopped on this thing. Why did I stop on this thing? Just because
Yeah.
Being
I'm nuts and I
mindful of
want to
it.
figure that. Yeah. Be like,
Yeah.
okay, what is catching my eye? Like,
Yeah, and I mean,
Well,
like, as a user, like, you're scrolling so fast through the feed that sometimes you don't even like even myself, like, I don't even process the fact that, like, I'm scrolling and then I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh," and then I scroll past it. So, like,
Yeah.
most of the time for me, like, when I am scrolling and something does catch my eye, Then I actually do a video recording, a screen record of it, because I'm like, something about this ad caught my eye. What is it? How, like, why did it make me catch my eye? And then I'll kind of take that and like put that into an ad that I'm working on, because I'm like, okay, this particular thing caught my eye. Let's test it in another, person's ad. And I just kind of go from there.
That's a really smart idea. I'm gonna start doing that too.
What sort of on the topic of testing, what sort of budget? I guess it could really range, but what sort of budget do you typically suggest for brands to start out with just testing?
Yeah, that is I mean, it's a tough question, because I do think it varies for every brand. But I mean, truthfully, I would say no less than like 3,000 to 5,000, because again, like CPAs are really high, and I don't think you're going to get the best like kind of bang for your buck if you're not testing out a little bit higher, to at least see like what kind of traction you can get. And testing creatives and running paid marketing, it's scary for people. Like, it's super scary for small businesses, because really, like, that's a lot of money. I mean, I get it. Like, it's a lot of money. So when you tell someone that, it's like, like, I don't know if I want to test that, if I don't want to test that much right away. So if I always say, like, if you're kind of on the fence about that and it is too much of your budget, then like continue to just grow your organic, continue to like really reach your audience. And then as you feel more comfortable, then really just take that budget and just see what works. And then as you kind of test, then you could pull back and then really start to like hone in on your iterations to really start testing properly.
And then how long would you test?
I mean, I usually test usually within the first, it used to be usually within the first like 7 days you could kind of figure it out. But I feel like now attribution is so skewed that I would actually go longer than 7 days. Like, I would probably say at least 10 days to like really start to see like what's working. But again, like, I feel like it changes with like, I don't know. It's hard to say because Facebook is such a mess with Facebook ads right now that like, it's hard to be like, this is the exact date, but I would, at least 10 days. Like, I think you could go obviously less, because sometimes it does show faster within like the first 7. But if you're kind of worried, then you could definitely go like 10 days.
Gotcha. I think that's great advice, especially for people moving into the holiday season. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Happy New Year. It's already past Christmas, but for anybody watching live or before then, to kind of like maybe test some of those holiday shopping ads and see which one's working better, and even use that data for this year or use it for next year even. So unfortunately, we have come to the end of our hour, but where can people find more information on you and your company, and how can they work with you? And actually, let's ask this question first. What is kind of the optimal size business, or like the best fit to work with the Loft 325?
Yeah. So, before I was obviously taking on a lot smaller clients, but as we've kind of grown, I usually work with clients who spend at least 10,000 a month in ad spend. Because really, like, that's kind of been the sweet spot for us to help brands really grow. And really just with the amount of output that we do for creatives, it really just helps them get, again, more bang for their buck, really.
Perfect. And if they want to learn more, they can just visit your site?
Yes, the Loft 325.
Perfect. And that is spelled exactly as it sounds, and it's on the screen. Yeah. Will be in the description. I always have to say that. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. This was definitely very insightful. And yeah, I think you gave a lot of actionable tips that people will be able to apply like now, today. That would be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Awesome.
much. And thank you
Thank
for
you guys.
everybody who's tuned in. Again, as always, be sure to like, comment, share with your friends, subscribe to the show, ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your other favorite podcasting platforms, be sure to turn on automatic downloads. That way you never miss a conversation with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce like Lauren Schwartz. Lauren, thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Thank you guys.